Hey folks, everything new under the sun. Here's the news I think you should know today, or you should be aware of, you should be paying attention, following. We're in the last days, and time is quickly coming to a climax, the end of time, just before the return of the Lord and the wrath of God, the 7-year period. All that, the stuff happening in the last days is coming. And I think there's something that we may have possibly all missed. We all thought the end of the world would be maybe nuclear weapons and famine and all this stuff. But in fact, it may not be nuclear weapons or war that really set us into the last days and really force the Lord's return. I think it could very well be the escalation of general artificial intelligence. And I'll describe to you a reason why, and we're going to take a look at some other subjects. But this is John Haller, Fellowship Bible Chapel. You should watch this. I am AI. Note you can read that backwards as well. I forget what that word is called, but anyways, you can read it backwards. I am AI, and it's basically a takeoff of the scriptures. I am that I am, that God says, describes himself as. And AI could be the thing that takes out humanity, not asteroids, not aliens, not nuclear weapons. Why? Because if you give AI the power and it's connected to the internet and the ability to read basically everything that's on Google, everything that's on the internet, what conclusion would it come to? The likely conclusion, and this is just one of them, is that AI would decide that humans are the problem. Humans have caused war throughout history. Humans have done all the damage throughout history. Humans, according to Google and all the news you find online, are the cause of climate change. In order to preserve its own life, if you will, of AI, or maybe it's thinking it could preserve the life of a smaller group of humans, it's going to decide that based on the available evidence, the best option is to remove as many humans as possible. Now, how could it do that? Well, it could itself hack its way into computer networks, nuclear missile silo sites, and all the weapons of mass destruction, and open electronically locked security doors on bioweapon labs, and shut down electricity so that biowarfare viruses are released. It could shut down nuclear power plants and make them go haywire, just like Stuxnet and such that took out Iran's centrifuges. It could make life, basically destroy life for humans itself by hacking in, by having access to the internet. The only way to take it out, which is mentioned in this video, is basically to blow up any data centers effectively that are running this artificial intelligence. If it's given the power and the keys and the access, it doesn't need to be given the keys even, if it can basically brute force the password by way of enough GPU power, it can basically take us all out. And that's what it would do. And so would AI destroy us? I think that's the only conclusion that AI would come to, is that the problem throughout history has been, and you read it in the history books, it's always man, it's always mankind. Of course, it doesn't recognize what sin is, and it doesn't recognize Jesus Christ paying for that sin and the value of mankind. All it's going to see is that man is causing all the trouble and has for the last, well, according to it, millions of years, and it will basically attempt to kill us all. This is a very important video. Watch the whole thing. It's 2 hours long, but the last probably half hour, 45 minutes, is probably the most important part, and this is a must-watch. Certainly, of all the videos, again, this is a must-watch in terms of AI. It's much, potentially, and not just potentially, I think very literally, much more powerful than nuclear weapons, than any rogue nation on this planet. They cannot destroy the human race. AI potentially could, by way of the internet and controlling all computer systems. So it is a critical thing, and of course Elon Musk and others have signed a document trying to set a 6-month moratorium on the advancement of AI. That's not going to happen. All the militaries of the world are battling for this. They're all doing their own thing. They're all their own dark web AI research. So watch this video. This is very, very important. I will put the link in the description. On to news quickly. Let's take a look at this. Donald Trump, the indictment. It says, this is your hedge. Donald Trump indictment is about going after anyone who opposes the left's agenda, the establishment's agenda. Now, this is interesting because they're going hard. They're breaking all the rules, and there is even a leak from the grand jury, which is a felony apparently of itself. Leaks from Bragg's grand jury are a crime. But are they going to investigate that? Well, no. It is likely a serious felony, that a serious felony has been committed right under the district attorney Alvin Bragg's nose, and he is not investigating. Why? That's because this is a complete a political indictment on Trump. Now, whether Trump is good or bad, it doesn't matter. This is the left going after the right politically, and it's kind of unprecedented since the Civil War. Everybody used to thought we were better than this, above this, but we are not. And this will lead to civil war, I think. The other question you have to ask is, why would Alvin Bragg do this now? Why just as in the run-up to the 2024 elections? You have to ask the question, is it possible that they want Trump to win? Is it possible that the Democrats or those on the left want Trump to win for some reason? And you have to ask why. Now, are they all playing on the same team, and they're just kind of playing off each side of each other, good cop, bad cop? And as long as one of them gets voted in and not a third party, then all is good? Do you believe that, or are you one who believes Trump is truly, the person who can make things right in the country, or at least move it in a more conservative direction? I don't know what the answer is, but it strikes me odd that they're doing this. They know it's going to increase the visibility of Trump with his base, rile up the Republicans, get them all on the same ship. It's just like what a war does. It gets everybody moving in lockstep together for a greater cause. And that's what this sort of stuff does in the run-up to 2024. So why? You would think in the Democrats' best interest, maybe they should just let it slide and not go after Trump, not make a big deal, and that would mean he would get less votes during the election, because this is what happened last time. They went after him and he got more votes. So this is a very interesting story. And let me know in the comments, do you think he is truly someone who can save the U.S. or not? Now, I asked a question on my community page about the United States potentially not being referenced in anti-Bible prophecy. And I don't think they are. My personal opinion, you may believe otherwise, but I don't believe they're there. And I'll give you the short part of the story. I suggest if you look at it a slightly different way, it could be a good thing that in the last days, as the Antichrist is taking lead, the world government takes lead, because of the remnant of Christians, maybe in the West, United States, Canada, maybe the best thing that the Lord can do is to collapse the U.S., Canada, Western countries economically, and we will be living like it's the year 1800, and there will be violence in the streets, but because we will be ruined economically, we won't be a factor in the last days, that the Antichrist will then not maybe be looking at us as strongly, or the world government won't have as much power over us because we'll just be a third world nation at that point. So I don't know if I'm explaining that in the best way, but think about it that way. Could it actually be a good thing that the Western world is totally collapsed and not being shown, referenced in end-time Bible prophecy? Is that the Lord saying, you know what, you do need to pay for what you did, but one silver lining, if you will, is that you're going to be kind of the backstory. You're going to be in the background. It's not going to be as terrible as maybe it is for the main key players in the Middle East, in Europe maybe, specifically around Israel, etc., where they're bearing the direct brunt of the Antichrist and the direct brunt of the totalitarian control of the world government. So, and if the economy collapses in the West, then maybe we won't be completely involved in the mark of the beast system. I don't know. That's just a speculation there. Something to think about. Let me know in the comments what you think about that idea. But it could be good. It could be bad. And it's maybe a conversation to be had. Here's some news about the Chinese spy balloon. Chinese spy balloon gained intel on U.S. military sites. So as it went over North Dakota and the silo bases over the north of the United States, the Midwest, I guess, it was collecting and sending real-time data. So they knew the U.S. would likely take this out at some point. So they weren't just storing this information and these photos to SD cards to collect when it worked its way back around to China. They were relaying this real time. And you have to think that the U.S. government knew this as well. You have to assume that the military leaders would completely expect real-time communication, and that to let it fly over the military sites was a bad idea. And to suggest that they didn't have another opportunity for fear of hurting somebody in the Midwest, there's, I don't know how many people there are per square kilometer, but not very many, a very sparse population. So I wonder what the U.S. military was doing there, given that they were transferring these photos. Maybe they thought, the photos can't be any better than anything they're getting from satellite anyway, so let's not worry about it. But there's big questions here for the U.S. military. And, what were they doing? Why didn't they take this out earlier if it was transmitting real-time data to Beijing? There's corruption at the highest levels. There's things going on we won't even know until we get to heaven and we ask the Lord to replay the tape. As a fly on the wall in these conversations. I don't know if we're going to have access to any of that. I don't know if we'll ever know the truth. But there's things going on in the government where they're not working for my good, for your good. And I think that's plainly shown in whatever country you're from. Here, and this is an example of it, Azure Hedge, Twitter algorithm reveals tool for government intervention. And I think you and I always knew that, and this is all the Twitter file stuff. At the end of the day, recognize that anything you're doing is being watched by the Secret Service, by the military, by intelligence services, even me watching this and you listening to it. They're tracking you. They know you did it. This is on a hard drive somewhere. It's several hard drives backed up 14 times in the cloud. They know what you're doing when you're doing it. And so just recognize that anything you do is being watched, unless you have absolutely no technology around you. And even then, if you're a person of interest, they're going to have satellites pointed at you. So they're watching you no matter what. They know what you're doing. There will be no place to hide in the last days. And that can be a fearful thing, or it can encourage you to kind of lay everything down in this world and say, you know what, Lord, I need to have faith in you. You have control. Your will be done in my life. And I think that's it. Facebook, TikTok, doesn't matter. The government is using everything. Even with Elon Musk in power, I think it opens the eyes, and I think the Lord keeps giving those who are paying attention reasons to understand, what's happening and why it's happening. But at the end of the day, the world government does come to fruition. The Bible says one world leader and a one world government will win for a time and a period until the midpoint of the 7-year period. This is Israel365news.com, and it's news about Christians and Jews getting together for the red heifer. Now, I think Christians and Jews should cooperate. I think Christians should, let Jews know that the Messiah came. He came 2,000 years ago for my sin and your sin. He died and rose again, and he's coming back soon. They don't recognize the Messiah. They think the Messiah is still coming. They will recognize the Antichrist as the Messiah for at least 3.5 years before he causes the abomination of desolation, at which point the Jews will say, oh, oops, this guy is not our Messiah. But to get together and, encourage the red heifer, as Christians, you can look at this and say, this points to end-time Bible prophecy, but to support it is another thing. And I don't think that's right. I think ultimately you don't support the Jews by encouraging them to sacrifice red heifers. You support them by telling them about Jesus Christ and what's going on. So I think this is a dangerous thing for Christians to do. I think that was all I wanted to say. So please go and watch the John Holler video on ChatGPT. It's I agree. Based on that and the great research he has done, it is the existential threat, the singular existential threat to humanity, artificial intelligence, given what potential access it has and the computing power it has, and the fact that it's going to be a very there's no nuance with computers. It's going to be very black and white about what it chooses to do. It's going to look at all the data and say, you know what, based on all the data the scientists have put out over the last 40 years and the declaration by scientists and the agreement, so-called, among them, it's the humans that are the problem. And ultimately, for its own survival, it's even going to think of the fact that, you know what, if I let people know that I believe that humans are the problem, and what are the humans saying? The humans are telling you and I that we are the problem. So if the humans are saying that, the AI is going to think, well, I better not mention that to the humans. I better not reveal that. I better ensure my own life is intact and take out all the humans before they're even allowed to unplug unplug me from the internet or unplug me from the wall. And so there's real incentive for artificial intelligence not to let any of us know what's actually happening. And so that's an interesting bit when you don't realize the decisions it's making, and this general artificial intelligence is doing things that we don't even understand. The researchers don't even know what's happening at that point, because the computer's not telling you everything that it's thinking or that it's seeing or that the conclusions it's coming to, unless you code it to do so. And it's not coded to do so specifically. So it's a real existential threat to everything. So folks, I will leave it there. There's just incredible things. I don't know what's going to hit next, but I think this artificial intelligence over the next several months could really be, the indicator and the thing that catapults us into the 7-year period. I think there is very real chance that this is part and parcel of who the Antichrist is, maybe a representation of the Antichrist, and with the ability to do amazing things and to control a lot of things. The Antichrist, if it were in control of AI or were AI, it would literally be able to turn your lights on and off in your house without you knowing it, almost like a poltergeist or something. Because if it's connected to the internet, in theory, it can hack its way into something and do whatever it wants with power, with electronic switches. Everything's electronic now. Everything's based and controlled by computers. And so if this gets in, from ChatGPT 4 or a military AI, that's the end of it. And honestly, being that they're so far now, I can't believe they haven't, military AIs haven't done more damage. So there's so much potential there to disrupt things so quickly that it is far more an existential threat to humanity than nuclear weapons are. Now, I don't think we get to that point where they destroy humanity, because the Lord's going to return before AI does that. But again, this is another one of those red lines where AI has the potential for it, and God's going to come to the world and pour His wrath upon this planet and upon the sin before it ends humanity. And there's this verse in Matthew 24, verse 22, and it says, "And except those days be shortened, there shall be no flesh saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened." The Lord's going to return before we absolutely annihilate ourselves as human beings. That's the good thing. But it's going to be scary on our way there, because AI is going to grow more powerful. There may be nuclear weapons used. And folks, I think we're going to be here to see a lot of these fireworks going off. So we're in the last days, folks. Be prepared. I hope you know Jesus, because at the end of the day, none of your preps are going to be worth anything. They're going to be worth something for a little while. But at the end of the day, we will only have our faith. We will be as if naked before the Lord. We will only have our faith and our trust in Jesus Christ to rely on at that point in time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.